this is Teacher May and welcome back to another episode of our Edu channel. For today, we will be talking about folktales, legends, and local color. Now let's start our discussion. What is folktale? Folktales are stories in the oral tradition or tales that people tell each other out loud rather than stories in written form. I will introduce you to the three common types of folktales. First, we have fairy tales. It always involves some elements of magic and good triumphing over evil. The second one is fables. So fables are fictional narratives and the characters are usually animals whose words and actions reflect human behavior. The trickster's tale. Trickster's tales are stories where the tricksters plays pranks just for fun of it. The most common example of it is the story of the Anansi the spider. Let me introduce you to the tricksters of the Greek, Roman, and Norse mythology. First, we have Hermes. Hermes is being tagged as a trickster god. As one of the 12 Olympiad gods, you might expect him to behave responsibly, but he doesn't. Hermes was rather unaware of the existence of responsibilities. Next, we have Cupid from the Roman mythology, the favorite god of anyone in love. Cupid's image was originally of that beautiful young man who played tricks on those in love. Being struck by Cupid's golden arrow leads to uncontrollable desire, and being struck with a leaden one leads to aversion. The Norse god Loki is another notorious trickster who gets up to no good when he persuades Thor to dress up as a woman, when he steals Freya's golden necklace, when he cuts off Sif's golden hair for no reason other than for his own pleasure, and when his strictness benefits the whole Asgard. Now, how can you tell if a story is a folktale? First, the characters are flat. Second, usually very good or very bad with most characteristics exaggerated. 3. The heroes and heroine are usually young. 4. The hero and heroine are usually fair, charitable, courageous, and caring. What is a legend? A legend refers to a traditional story that may or may not be true. A story or narrative that lies somewhere between a myth and a historical fact. The word legend came from a Latin word legendus, which means something which ought to be read. Now let's proceed to the difference between myth and legends. So, legends are traditional or historical stories about ancient people, places, and events, while myths are also traditional stories, but it's about how certain customs were born. Second, myths are closely related to religions, but legends are not. Lastly, legends are stories about real people with supernatural powers, but myths are stories about God and His existence. Urban legends. Just like traditional folktales, they are based on real parts of culture and often real people. However, in most cases, the details have been exaggerated, ultimately making the stories false. Let us now proceed to the examples of urban legends. First, we have unsolved mysteries. Where there isn't a clear explanation for something, people develop unlikely scenarios or explanations. As the rumors and stories are passed on, people make up details to fill in the blanks, and thus many unsolved crimes or mysteries turn into urban legends. Next, we have conspiracy theories. Our ideas about certain events in history or things in today's society are actually elaborate cover-ups by the government or other powerful organization. Example is the Area 51, a government airfare base in Nevada is actually a location that secretly studies alien activities and covers up extraterrestrial visits. Lastly, we have chain emails. Popularized in the late 90s, chain emails still get spread around today. They usually suggest that some kind of benefit or consequence will come about if you do or don't share the email with other people. The stylistic elements of a legend. Legends have certain characteristics that distinguishes them from any other forms of literature. Observing traits, themes, and specific plot elements can help you determine if the play is legendary. First, we have characters and setting. Characters in legends are limited to small cast. Legends typically take place in the past, and the setting is somehow relevant to the culture from which it derives. Next, we have plot and theme. A legend's plot will include a lot of action, suspense, and conflict. The characters of a legend are often faced with difficult obstacles to overcome and struggles with their fate or destiny. The third, we have point of view and style. Legends are written usually from the third-person point of view. A legend will reflect upon a society's culture, values, and beliefs and the frail of nature or weakness of human being. Lastly, we have generations. Legends are usually passed down through generations. Prior to printing, legends were passed orally to teach the younger generations a certain set of values. Let's now proceed to local color. Local color or regional literature is fiction and poetry that focuses on the characters, dialect, customs, topography, and other features particular to specific regions. The characteristics of a local color stories: the characters are marked by the adherence to the old ways, by dialect, and by particular personality traits central to the region.
Hello Ka-Edu! Welcome to another episode of Edu channel. This is Teacher Jasa, and for today's video, we are going to discuss myths derived from scriptures as explanations of natural phenomena and allegories. First, myths derived from scriptures mean that myths are based on a concept from the scriptures. The story of Moses and Philemon is one example of myths derived from the scripture. The Hebrews also had their own Moses and Philemon, and they are Sarah and Abraham. In Genesis 18, we can see that Sarah and Abraham had guests, and they showed kindness and hospitality just like Moses and Philemon. The love of Moses and Philemon is also rewarded by the gods. One day, Jupiter and Hermes descend to earth in disguise in order to test the hospitality of the people of Phrygia. No one is kind to them except an old couple, Moses and Philemon, who are very poor. Revealing themselves, Jupiter and Mercury drown the rest of Phrygia's wicked inhabitants in a flood and offer Moses and Philemon any wish they desire. Moses and Philemon merely ask never to live apart from one another. The two thus live to a very old age, when the gods transform them into two trees, a linden and an oak tree, growing out of a single trunk. Next, myths as explanations of natural phenomena. Greek mythology was used as a means to explain the environment in which humankind lived, the natural phenomena they witnessed, and the passing of time through the days, months, and seasons. Natural phenomena were explained with myth. Example, earthquakes are created when Poseidon crushes his trident to the ground. Here's a sample of natural phenomena through the story of Daphne and Apollo. Daphne was hunting, her dress short to the knee, her arms bare, her hair was messy. Nevertheless, she was enchantingly beautiful that Apollo fell in love with her. Apollo chases Daphne, and Daphne flew on, even more frightened than before, and so she asked for help from her father, and she had been changed into a tree, a laurel tree. But Apollo's love never dies for her. Lastly, allegory isn't just a story, picture, or other pieces of art that uses symbols to convey a hidden meaning. Instead, allegory is the expectation and intention that we approach a story as if it had a hidden meaning. Myths had to be interpreted allegorically. The story of Orpheus and Eurydice is an example of myth as an allegory. The story goes like this. Orpheus and Eurydice's marriage is doomed from the beginning. Hymen, the Greek god of marriage, did not bless their wedding, and Eurydice died after their marriage. Devastated, Orpheus travels to the underworld and makes a deal with Hades. If Orpheus can walk to the surface without looking back, she will return to life, but Orpheus fails because he looked back. Now Orpheus goes mad with grief, and he is murdered by a group of maidens, and death finally reunites him with Eurydice.